Well, hello. Today, you're basically just hearing my voice. I hope that is okay with you because I look like crap. But I wanted to show you how I organize my TBR on Notion. Notion is without a doubt my favorite planning app. I absolutely love it, and I've talked about it on my main channel a lot. So if you speak German and you want to know more about Notion, go check out my main channel. However, I wanted to talk about this little books place down here. I mentioned in my TBR tag that I organize my books or my TBR on Notion, and I'm just going to give you a little overview of what that looks like. So basically in Notion, and why I love this app so much, is you can have different ways to look at one table. So this is like one table of like all the books I'm trying to manage in 2021. And we can see there are different categories. We have name, author, rough genre, ethnicity, because I try to track and make sure that I'm not just reading one. Status is just the year, basically, either the year and it's finished or it is unread reading and so forth. And then my rating. Every once in a while I put in a rough topic, especially for books that I'm adding to my TBR so I don't forget where they're coming from. And yeah, Notion, the greatest thing about it is that you can have different ways of looking at a table. So, for example, if I want to look at all of the books that I've read in 2021, then I click on 2021 and it automatically filters for the books. Now it does this by going on filter and then saying status is 2021 because that means I read it in 2021. And then it just filters for all of the books that I've read in this year so far. And I can see all of the books here. I can see my notes on them. I can open them up and do all look at what I thought of these books or what I didn't think of these books, whatever I want to look at. I can look at all of my 5-star reads, for example, the ones that I enjoyed the most. I'll probably do that when I'm going to do my favorite books of the year videos. I'll probably do all of the 5 stars, and I can do this with pretty much everything. But the way I like to look at this table the most, like my favorite view of this table, is actually this little Kanban board, as you would call it. Because this is where I can see like the different statuses of the books. And we have several different ones. We have idea, which is basically like TBR. This is what I want to read, or these are ideas of what I could read. Then I have planned by. So these are the books that I am planning to buy soon. And then once I've bought or purchased a book, once it's either on its way or whenever I've purchased it, they don't even have to have sent it yet, I put the book into unread. Because what I realized is that for the longest time, I felt like I had nothing to read at home. And I still had a lot of unread books at home. And in order to make sure that I actually know which books I have at home that I have not read, I actually separated these 3 categories of my TBR. So these are books that I do not own, that I found wherever and thought, wow, that sounds interesting. I would love to read that. And then I can plan to buy them, but I only plan to buy books if my unread stack here is like down to maybe 3 books. But as long as the list here is still this long, I'm not allowed to buy any books. And that makes it so easy to see, what do I have at home? What do I feel like reading? Especially if I put some of the books back into the bookshelf. Now, the next little category we have here is like monthly TBR. So these are the books that I'm pretty much planning to read in the next month. And as you can see, we still have to sort some of these books from unread to monthly TBR. And I kind of do this whatever I feel like having, right? So I think I'm ready to read Piranesi, for example. Olive Again sounds pretty good, and Divan sounds like a freaky enough book. And so these are kind of the books that I'm planning to read soon, depending on my mood, but every once in a while I'll kick a book back into the unread if I don't feel like reading it at that point in time. And last but not least, we of course have reading. So these are the books that I'm reading at this moment. And once I finish the book, I'll put it onto the finished pile. Now, the finished pile are basically all of the books that I have not mentioned in a monthly wrap up just yet. So as you can see, I've obviously just filmed a monthly wrap up because there are no books here in the finished line. I just try to make sure that I know exactly which books I need to talk about in my monthly wrap ups. So that's why I have this extra little finished category. And then once they were in a monthly wrap up, I put them into 2021, counting the books that I've read in 2021. If I've DNF'd a book, I also here have a little DNF category, and that's 2 books. That's The Chosen and the Beautiful and Down and Out in Paris and London. Those are the 2 books that I've DNF'd so far. And I think there was one more. I don't know where it is. But so these are the books basically that I still have to talk about in my monthly wrap up, and then I sort them into their little groups that they belong into. And then of course next year I'll make a new group, which is 2022, and then I'll have all of the books of 2022 in there. What is also great about Notion is the fact that in a table, all of these points in the table can have their own page. So this, for example, I can open a page and I can just put my notes in here about the book. So I have them sorted in a table with all of these different categories, and then I can still look at the notes about the book, which is what I just enjoy most. So let's look at here, progress. So let's say I wanted to make some notes on Circe, then I would bring this up and then I would give Circe an icon, and then I would start typing my notes on this book, and then I would give it a rating when I'm done with it. Oh, sorry. And then sometimes I put in a rough topic. I don't necessarily here. I usually put in a rough topic when I found a book in a bookstore. So for example, here, I put in a rough topic here because I probably won't remember what sweet bean paste is. So I just put in the themes of the book here on rough topic. And I'll comment like where I got it from. So this was a recommendation from a friend. And then I'll write that down to make sure that I don't forget where I got the recommendation from. So yes, that is basically my little table in Notion and how I sort books. But I have to say this little 3-part TBR was revolutionary for me. Because I really truly used to buy way too many books, and then I would forget how many books I had at home, and just separating my TBR into ideas, some things that I could buy, planning buys, having a list of unread books that I have at home, and then actually planning what I want to read next was absolutely revolutionary. I don't know why I did this any earlier. It just makes so much sense. So yeah, that's my little Notion tour on my little book thing here. This is what the whole table looks like, and yeah, I'm so excited to see what the rest of the year will bring on our books. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you use Notion. I absolutely love this app. It's just, yeah, it's seriously one of the things I love the most. Bye.